It's a great honor for me to share with you today the untold story of Jews from Arab land. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks Councilman Paul Koretz for sponsoring this meeting. I was born in Taht al-Takia, in the Jewish old quarter city in Baghdad in 1930. In 3 weeks, I'll be 86. My mother tongue is Arabic. My Arabic name is Yusuf. Baghdad was my home and Iraq was my country. Here's a photo of my family that in Baghdad when I was living. Jewish roots in Iraq goes back over 26 centuries. Biblical prophet Ezekiel, Ezra, Jonah, and Nehemiah are all buried in Iraq. By mid-20th century, 1 in every 4 citizens in Baghdad was Jewish. Then things changed. On June 1, 1941, Muslim mobs went on a rampage, looting and burning Jewish homes and businesses. They murdered Jewish men and children, raped women and girls, and murdered them. The violence became known as Farhud. Here's a photo of the mass grave of the victims. There were no arrests, prosecution, or convictions. Jews would not file complaint against Muslims without fear of retaliation and the fear for their lives. I was 10.5 years old. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide, and no country to take us. This violence became known as Farhud. Then on May 15, 1948, Jews felt a beam of hope, safety, and freedom and dignity. Israel was born. After 2,000 years, once again, Jews had a country, a sanctuary from persecution and death. On the same day, 5 Arab countries declared war on the newly born Israel. They failed. The Iraqi government turned against the Jewish population. Summary arrests, torture, and public execution followed. Every Jew was a suspect. At the age of 19, I was smuggled out of Iraq to Iran and then to Israel. I became a homeless, penniless refugee. I stood in line for a free meal and slept in a tent. Here's a photo of the tent city of the refugees. In 1950, the Iraqi government allowed Jews to leave Iraq. Most of the 135,000 Jews living then left. They were allowed to leave with only 1 suitcase. They lost their homes, businesses, and their citizenship was revoked. Those who stayed faced systematic persecution, arrest, torture, and public execution. Most of them were smuggled out. American forces rescued the final few after the war of 2003. Presently, there are no Jews left in Iraq. The Iraqi Jewish exodus was repeated in other Arab lands. The 850,000 Jews were living in the Middle East and North Africa. At present, only 3,000 left. The many Arab wars against Israel brought these Arab Jews economic deprivation, harassment, discrimination, and expulsion. About 600,000 of them settled in Israel. The rest found refuge in Europe, Canada, the US, and other places. After making my way through Iran, Israel, and Canada, and after losing my home in Baghdad, I found a home that I love. My family and I are grateful and privileged to be living in one of the greatest nations under God's green earth, where we experience freedom, justice, and peace, the United States of America. Thank you.